Welcome back, friends. Today I'm going to talk about the module 2, the implementing and managing hybrid identities. In this, I'm going to demonstrate how you can set up the Azure AD Connect and connect your on-premises Active Directory with the Azure Active Directory. So this is just a demo part of our discussion. So let's jump into the Azure portal and see. Let me just hide this. So I'll walk you through the portal. So I have created a nice little virtual machine in my Azure Active Directory under this resource group called Win 2019-80. This is actually Windows Server 2012 operating system. And then I have converted this simple Windows Server machine into a Windows Server Active Directory. And let me also remote into that machine. Okay, so this is the machine where I'm right now in, and you can see that if I just show you the whole screen, you see here that under the tools you can see the Active Directory Admin Center is showing up, which means now it is converted into Active Directory. You can do it by doing add roles and features and choose the Active Directory and then make it an Active Directory. I have a video demonstration or on step by step how you can do that, so which you can also watch in the same playlist. So let me go into that and go to the admin center. And if I show you the list of users available over here, and let's say I have an user called Super AD Admin, that user is required for me to really run the AD DirSync. So let me open the sync tool download link. So if I go into azure.com, that's a portal where all your Azure information available. Go into the documentation, and then I go to the product called identity and go to the Active Directory documentation. So it takes me to the Azure AD documentation official page. Now you have got many different options available, right? And then you can see that there are many things you can do, and which I'm right now focusing on is the authentication. Okay. If I go into the main part of the Active Directory, you will see the AD Connect. Under somewhere should be yeah. And this takes you to the documentation which says that how do you install the AD Connect. That tool is it's part of hybrid identity, and you can see that you can download this AD Connect, and it's available for anybody, freely downloadable. So you can download it and install it in your machine, right? And it requires some basic stuff. For example, it runs on Windows Server 2012 onwards, right? And you can see that it supports all version after that, and definitely only the server version. So you can see the Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows Server 2016, Windows Server 19. So all of them are supported over here, right? You can just download and run it. So it is around 96 MB. So what I did, I have downloaded that and then I kept it in my desktop. So now if I run the configuration wizard, what it really does, it asks me a couple of things step by step. Now I'll walk you through the whole experience. So I'll not go with the express setting, I will go with the customize setting. Now, before I click over here in the next phase, I would also like to show you that I've got my own Azure Active Directory. You can see that name of the Azure Active Directory is AZ303WG, right? You can see that this is the Azure Active Directory right now I'm in. So this is my Active Directory, and inside that Active Directory I have got few users, right? I've pre-created them, so they are basically the users available within the Active Directory. So I'll go into that and show you the users from this list of users. Let me increase the size here, and you can see that a few users are already available, right? And I can use this super AAD admin. I made this user a bit special because I assign this user few roles, and you should know this. This user is a global admin role, and which says that it can manage all aspects of Azure AD and microservice services that uses Azure AD identities. Because I'm now going to use this user account to configure my tool, I need the highest privilege user who can manipulate everything in this Active Directory. Similarly, if I go back to my domain center, if I double click this super AD admin, okay, and if I just show you the groups this user is part of, you can see that I made this user part of the domain admins, and definitely it's normally user, and also an enterprise admins. So both of them are required for this local Active Directory user to be part of these groups. So any user you can create and give rights to this these groups. Then once they are done, you can start the configuration wizard, right? You can just say that I want to go next, and this time it will ask you what do you want to really configure. Do you want to do a password hash synchronization? That means you copy the hash of the hash of the hash of the password, or you want to configure pass-through authentication where you don't want to store any password in the cloud, but redirect that authentication system into your on-premises Active Directory via an agent, and then get it verified by your Active Directory on-premises Active Directory user and password, because then it will apply all the rules and policies. For example, if you have any policy which says that user cannot log in after 6 p.m. in their local time, then that is not supported today in Azure Active Directory. So if you have similar kind of policies set up, you can use the pass-through authentication. You do not need to copy the password into the cloud. If you are using some federation, either using ADFS or ping federate, you can choose this option, or you say do not configure. So I'll choose the password hash synchronization. This is one of the best practices recommendations for the greenfield kind of scenario, where you have a backup option, because if anything goes wrong with your on-premises Active Directory system, you still have a backup into the cloud, and then your application can get verified by that Azure Active Directory. So let's choose that option. And if you enable the single sign-on, what happens, you basically, any user who is currently logged into their machine in the Office network will not be challenged by the Azure Active Directory. So they will not see the login screen. So now it is asking you to provide the Azure AD Global Administrator credential. Any user who has the global admin account can use that. So I'll use my super admin user account, right? So, and then I say AZ303, that's my Active Directory name, wg.onmicrosoft.com, right? And then I provide the password. I'll say Okay, it has to be correct. So let me see if that is correct. And it has to authenticate. If it is something required MFA, then you will see a prompt coming up here. So it will actually show up a small browser window on top of the screen, just like any login window if you have the MFA enabled, multi-factor authentication enabled. Right now I have disabled the MFA for the safety and security purpose. You always should have the MFA enabled. Now it is asking me to connect to an on-premises Active Directory. So I'm using my local machine as the Active Directory and I'm running my agent in the same machine. You can run this agent to any machine connected to the network and which can connect to this machine. So it's not necessary that you need to install software in the same machine all the time. So I'm doing that here. So I only have access to one Active Directory. So I can say add Active Directory. The moment I hit add Active Directory, what happens? It asked me to use an existing AD account, right? So let me create a new, provide the new Active Directory, provide the existing Active Directory username and password. So I'll say super AD admin, right? That's my domain username. And I can just provide the domain name along with the username. And then what I do, I provide the password. And I say, okay, if everything is fine, okay, so it is asking me to create a separate. So let me create a separate one. And I say, I create a brand new one. Let me do that. Why it is not allowing me to do that? So let me check what all users I have here. Maybe I can let me see if I get a member of, and then okay, that's fine. Then I just try to run this again. Super admin, AD admin. Okay, then enterprise or domain admin accounts for Azure 4 is not allowed. Let user already create an account. Synchronization account. Okay, let me I need to remove this user from, let me just okay, so let me try to add this, and then I say okay, and then I say next. What this will try to do is that it will try to retrieve the directory schema of my local Azure Active Directory. Now this is asking me a few things. To sign in with same credential on-premise directory, match Azure AD domain is required. The following table lists the UPN suffixes, right? So this is the UPN suffix, and do not have in domain, and select on-premises attribute to use as the Azure AD username. So what do you really want to use as Azure AD username? So UPN is something which is commonly used, so that's why it is selected. You can select any other thing. You can say continue without matching all UPN suffixes. You say next. Now this time it is asking you to sync all domains with organizational unit or specific OUs. I only have one, so I don't really bother. So I'll say all. Okay, and I say you can filter them out. Basically, you can also say that users are represented only once across all directories, or users identities exist in multiple directories match. So what kind of criteria do you want to put forward? So I'll just leave it as default. Do you need any filtering? Like you just need only the users belong to a specific group. For example, they only use Cloud App, not everybody. So you want to have that kind of exercise. You just say no. Now here you have already selected the password hash synchronization. And do you want to enable the password write back? Now what is password write back? If you enable this, what happens, right? If you change the password and then it will be written back to your on-premises Active Directory. So change the password in Azure AD, which means that if you log into Azure AD and say that I want to change my password, or someone in your organization changes your reset your password, that will be reset back to on-premise. So it's both way synchronization ideally. I don't want any of this, and directory extension blah blah blah, and then I say next, right? So I just leave it the default one, and it says that now it is ready to configure, right? And it says all the details. This is your Azure AD, right? This is your on-premises AD. You can even have multiple on-premises AD configured. Enable staging mode when selected synchronization will not export any data to AD or Azure AD, right? Start the synchronization process when configuration is complete. So this is the time I must say install. So what it basically does, it checks everything, verifies the synchronization status, creates couple of services in your local machine, right? Wherever this application is running, and constantly pushing the data to the Azure Active Directory. And that's what exactly this tool will be doing. Now, what I wanted to also give you an idea about is if you go into the users of this, right now we have only 4 users, but there are a couple of users available in my local AD. So what I can do, I can just wait for the whole thing to finish. And once this is kind of done, we can come back over here and talk about what exactly is happening. Now you can see that the synchronization is still getting configured, right? Now the health agent is getting installed, right? And that agent will basically be monitoring what happened wrong, what did not work, etc. So you'll be able to see things like what did not work well. So if you see over here, so let me just show you the Azure AD sync health agent. Which right now is getting installed, right? And this, by the way, runs on these 2 ports. You can see that port 4435671. So you need to make sure they are not blocked, right? And you can see that there are a couple of things which happens in that health agent. So I would highly recommend that you go into this documentation section and read through about details of this health agent, right? And you can see that it basically configures 3 services in your local machine. So if you go into the services dashboard, you will see that these 3 services are configured and running automatically every time you start a machine, or running all the time. And that's what exactly this health agent is doing at this point in time. Right, you can see that configuration is complete, and it says that you can view the log. The activity recycle bin is not enabled further. So how do you enable the recycle bin? Is something like a notification then configured as the source and anchor attribute. So that's fine. I'll say exit. Now what happens with my Active Directory? Let me see if there is any improvement over here. Okay, so if I just refresh this, you can see now things have increased, right? Because now I've got few more users coming in from my local Active Directory, right? So you can see that this on-premises directory synchronization is being configured. This user, the name of my father, came from on-premises Active Directory. This super AD admin came from on-premises Active Directory, right? And you can see that the status shows whichever is synced. Yes means they came from on-premises. They are not synced, that means that it was here already, so it never synced. So these are all born in the cloud kind of users, and you can see them showing up here in this list, right? So that's pretty simple and straightforward on how you can configure Azure Active Directory and then connect with on-premises Active Directory to really synchronize all the users on your on-premises, and using the password hash sync, which means that the hash password, which generally stored in Azure Active Directory, being hashed for a couple of hundreds of times and then goes and gets stored into Azure Active Directory. And any cloud application doesn't really travel back to on-premises to check it. It can check with Azure Active Directory, and then it will be challenged by the Azure Active Directory. Hope this was helpful and you have had a sense on how you can configure and run the directory sync tool, AD sync tool, to synchronize your on-premise Active Directory with Azure Active Directory. Thank you very much.